not making that kind of introduction at every start of Maiyegun's broadcast. It's a very quick reminder and very much useful information. So talking about information, 2 days ago, Kolu announced the presidential pardon and clemency and conversion and so many others, right, for some convicted Nigerians who have been convicted of various degrees of crimes. 175 of them, some of them are already dead, and their own pardon is posthumous, which means they will wipe off every criminal or whatever conviction in their record. And I don't know how much that is useful. One of the men who got Tinubu's pardon is Abat Macaulay, rather. I want to say Hubert. Abat Macaulay, who was convicted in 1913. Wow, that's a long time ago. That's over 100 years ago or something. So they said he was convicted of mismanagement of a public fund, right? And was barred from participating in political. He got a presidential kind of pardon back then, though. But the highlight of Tinubu's pardon that has gotten everybody talking is the caliber of people Tinubu decided to pardon. In 1991, a news magazine, Newsbreed, had this at the front of his as his headline, header. Drug barons may determine Nigeria's political future. This is the situation of Nigeria now. When you have the druggie Kolu in charge. So what did he do? 2 days ago, they announced the pardon of some hardened criminals like drug dealers. This is not just drug dealers, so drug traffickers who was convicted to life imprisonment. Tinubu pardoned him and he's been freed. The most wanted kidnapper, right? Who killed the deputy governor of a state in the eastern part of Nigeria. Kidnapped that, constitutional lawyer, Mike Ozekome. Yeah, you remember that time when he was kidnapped in 2020 or so, right? That was him. And he's got a pardon. He's back home now, by the way. So you have a human trafficker, somebody who was convicted into life imprisonment for trafficking. That means somebody who was selling human beings and got caught, convicted, has also been pardoned. Okay. So I have the list, and it may sound like boring because I just want to have it on record. In defense of Tinubu, because a lot of Nigerians are kind of like, it's just downing on them. Like every other regular news. Once they hear the news, they're just like, they're not interested per se. But when people started digging into the list, oh, really? For a country that is battling serious insecurity, internal insecurity, caused by this same corrupt, compromised security structure. I mean, within that space, by the way, as corrupt as Nigerian system might be, right? Some people dedicated their time, the resources to be witnesses, to be the lawyers, the judges who concluded the case and convicted these criminals. And right now, they are free, including their victims, right? So we're going to kind of like take a look at the list. Maybe not all of it, but at least you're going to have a shot at it as well. So scrutinizing the list of those that Tinubu pardoned, you realize that drug-related offenses, that takes about 40% of the list. Illegal minors takes 34%. Financial white collar, which is the fraudsters, that one takes about 17%. Violent and capital offenses like murder, kidnapping, 14%. Property hijacking, maritime, which is piracy and all that, 6%. Arms-related offenses, those who are gun runners, including a major in Nigerian army that was Akulu or something, his name. He was convicted to life imprisonment for conspiring to steal the weapons in the Nigerian armory. He stole weapons and then he sold them to Boko Haram. That's his conviction. He said to have to continue to say he's innocent, like that didn't happen. That's not what happened and all that, but he's convicted. So Tinubu heard his cry and he's been released as well. So we're going to go into the list one by one so that for the record, right, it's not just going to be, I heard, he said, I heard that. No, you too can possibly, and those who are going to see this video now and in the future, that in Nigeria, where you've had a government that pardoned terrorists without even like notifying their own citizens, Operation Safe Corridor, an illegal system put in place by Bokwari and the Nigerian army under Buratai the Butcher, where terrorists have been like rehabilitated and they are being returned back to the society. And they are being paid as well. Some of them are being reintegrated into the Nigerian army. An initial allegation that they used to deny, but these days they don't deny them anymore. They just say, well, because they've been rehabilitated and it's because they needed their experience. Under this arrangement, many Nigerian soldiers have died because of the supposed internal sabotage of information. We've had that many times. So all these failed ideas continue to be the policies of Tinubu. There are those who are already reading political meaning to this, saying that Tinubu is releasing the ardent criminals because he was going to make use of them in 2027. That's conspiracy, by the way. But in reality, what happened when ardent criminals like this were put behind bars and they barely serve even half of their supposed life sentence, which is practically, I think, 20 years, right? And they are back in the society just like that by the proclamation of the presidential pardon. So who are those who work behind to put together this list? They include the prison officials, a team from Tinubu's office, which is kind of led by the Attorney General of Nigeria. Yeah, your Minister of Injustice, Fagbewon, and others put together, scrutinized the list, and they gave it to Kolu. So you have treasury looters who also got pardoned. So when you walk, so for example, those of you who are lawyers in Nigeria who still believe that maybe something can still happen, right? You do everything, did all your research, the threat and all that, and you manage to put political criminals behind bars. Like they even got convicted that they served jail only for that to be scratched out, like it never happened, and they are back into the society just like that by the proclamation of another criminal. Somebody said, this is what you get when you elect criminals into power. Then you realize that the crime becomes partially legalized. The only illegal crime would be the one they don't, they didn't sanction. For example, the terrorists that listen to their guide and the rest of that, they have immunity. But the terrorists that act outside their order and all of that, they use them as the military is working example. In the whole process, the people become more and more their victims, unfortunately. So they have legalized crime. You just need to belong to APC, right? Before you can get protected. How did they come by this list? Model the whole thing up enough that you kind of have to keep wondering what's the end goal? How did human traffickers, drug traffickers, gun traffickers, how did they manage murderers? How did they manage to get this pardon? Who did the consideration? Who did all the whole, what do you call it? The whole scrutiny and all that, right? They didn't have to do any scrutiny. Some are also asking, how much did these people pay for this presidential pardon too? Like all these criminals, it didn't just land on their lap. You get what I mean now? Like, especially the hardened ones who are serving life sentences, right? So it's not like this presidential pardon just flew from somewhere miraculously and just landed on their laps. No. How much did they pay? Would you have anybody look into it? That's the problem. When you have a system or your entire system, institutions that have become so compromised, then you realize that there is nobody to report to. Because everybody answered to one person, just one person only, the Jack Bandit, Kolu, Tinubu himself. So I have the list and I'm going to read them out and we can easily see what Tinubu has unleashed to the society. So first, those they pardoned. The first one on the list is this Nweke Francis Chibueze. He's 44 years old. He's currently serving serving a life sentence in Kirikiri for cocaine, smuggling, trafficking. So right now, he's back home. You have Dr. Nwogu Peters, 67. He's serving 17 years for fraud. So 17 years in 2013, that means he's already served 12 years. He's got 5 years left if Tinubu let him go. Mrs. Anastasia Daniel Nwaba, 63, she has already served her sentence for fraud. So she's probably going to go into politics now because she's been wiped off as, pardoned. Then you have Barrister Uzeni Alhaji Umar, age 58. He was sentenced in 2023, right, for fraud, YCPC case. So he was to pay 150 million naira fine. So the fine has been cancelled and his conviction is now pardoned. You have Anyela Sadu Alanamu, 63. They said he was sentenced to 7 years for bribery in 2019. So 2019 to now will be like 6 years already. So they said he has already served his sentence in that regard. So you have Farouk Lawan, who also was sentenced to 5 years in 2021 for corrupt practices. That one don't serve his sentence as well. It was released recently, right? So you have those they also pardoned posthumously. Albert Macaulay, he was banned from public office for misappropriation of funds and sentenced in 1913 by British colonialists. So now only British fit forgive Macaulay, but okay, Kolu had him, right? So you have General Gia Vatsa, who was sentenced to death for treason under Babangida. So he has been pardoned by Kolu. Other posthumous pardons as listed by Kolu. You have Ken Saro-Wiwa for murder, the Ogoni 9. Excuse me. So you have Saturday Dobe. We know about the Ogoni 9. So then you have the victims of Ogoni 9, who we also honored with national honor. You know those chiefs that the Ogoni campaigners were allegedly to have killed because they were supporting Abacha. So he has already given those ones national honor. Then clemency. So you have these ones, so they are to go, right? Because they have shown good behavior. They have shown good behavior and the report is fine. So that's why they're just going to have to let them go out there. And what were their crimes? What did they do? Yeah. You have Aluagu Lawrence. He was sentenced for Indian hemp, for selling Indian hemp. That's a hemp dealer. You have Ben Friday. He was 60 years old. He was sentenced to 3 years or 1.3 million naira fine for marijuana in 2023. So he's got clemency for that. He won't pay the money. Oroke Michael Chibueze, 21, sentenced to 5 years for cannabis sativa. For cannabis. So you have a Kelvin Christopher Smith, 42, for importing cocaine. Azubike Jeremiah, sentenced in 2021 to 5 years or 3 million naira fine for importing cocaine. Akinwande Adebiyi, 47, sentenced in 2023 to 3 years for dealing in tramadol. Ahmed Adeyemo, 38, sentenced to 15 years for cannabis. Already served 9 years, 5 months at Kirikiri, so it's been let off. Adebiyi Jimo, 31, sentenced to 15 years for drugs in 2015. So he's already served 9 years at Kirikiri, so he's been let off. Yewomiride, sentenced for drugs in 2015. He's done 9 years too, so he's been let off. Adeson Olufemi Paul, 61. He was sentenced to 14 years for theft. So he's done 8, so he's back out. Ife Yusuf, 37, was sentenced for human trafficking in 2019. And human trafficking, the life sentence in there, but they said he has served 6 years at Kirikiri. He's been let off. Person who they said human being. Daniel Dodunwa, 43, was sentenced in 2018 to 10 years for fraudulent internet to forge a land receipt. He's already served 6. You have Fidelis Michael, 40, sentenced to 5 years for cannabis sativa. Suru Akonde, 52, for cannabis, 5 years. Saviano Umar, sentenced to 5 years without option of a fine for possessing 5 kg of cannabis. So she's done 2 years, so she's been let off. Dahiru Abdullahi, 46, sentenced in 2016 to 21 years for possession of 3 pistols and has spent 10 years in jail. Amdroba Abi, back on the street. Amza Abubakar, 37, sentenced to 5 years for Indian hemp. So he's done 3 years, he's out. Rabiu Alazan Dawaki, 52, sentenced in 2020 to 7 years for criminal breach of trust, fraud. Mujibu Muhammad, 30, sentenced in 2022 to 5 years, no option for a fine for cannabis. So you have Bala Zika, 70-year-old man. In 2017, he was sentenced to 15 years for selling cannabis, so he's back on the streets. Laina Kasum Wilson, 34, he was sentenced to death in 2017 for culpable homicide. That's for murder, So he's already done 8 years, so he's back on the streets. Buhari Sani, 33, he was sentenced in 2022 to 5 years for possession of 558 grams of cannabis. Mohammed Musa, 27, was sentenced in 2022 to 5 years for possession of 16 grams of cannabis. Or people go jail for cannabis in Nigeria a lot. And most of your politicians are drug addicts, by the way. They have their privilege, you don't. So then you have Muarazu Abubakar. That one too. What did he do? He was selling Indian hemp. So he's been released. Ibrahim Yusuf for Indian hemp as well. So released. Sada Ahmed Madaki. He was also sentenced in 2020, right? For 419 offense, fraud. Corporal Michael Bauer was 72. Was imprisoned for murder in 2005. He's done 20 in Kaduna prison. Now you see something about murder, which is not like general. Sure you get. So they will say before you are considered for a parole in a murder case, you must at least do 20 years. Sometimes they'll say 30. And that one is not to free you. It's just to possibly take you out of the death row. say, okay, yeah, they've commute your sentence now to life imprisonment, right? And from there, maybe, just maybe, you can get a parole. Or you must have done at least half of what took you inside there. But no, I don't know what criteria these guys use, right? But the list is very long. Jumping them now, right? So you have those ones who are in their tramadol, northern Nigeria. You dey hear the names, Abi? The pandemic of drug abuse, drug addiction in northern part of Nigeria is massive, especially among the young people. It's like a pandemic that, in fact, it is not like it is a pandemic, serious drug abuse. And when you look at